The dollar bill felt like a slap across my face. I stared at it, crisp and new, as if my father had specifically requested the bank provide the freshest note possible for his final insult. My name is Heidi, and this was the sum total of my inheritance. The remainder of the estate, valued at $850,000, will be divided equally between Robert and Greg Armstrong. The lawyer droned, his voice echoing through my father's mahogany-lined study. I could feel Patricia's eyes on me from across the room, her perfectly manicured hands folded in her lap, lips curved in what anyone else might mistake for sympathy. My stepmother had perfected that look over the years, the one that said, "Oh, you poor dear," while really meaning, "Know your place." Robert cleared his throat, shifting in his leather chair. "Well, that's that then?" He shared a quick glance with Greg, who at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Actually," I spoke up, my voice steadier than I felt, "I'd like to know why my father chose this specific amount." The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "The will specifically states that $1 demonstrates conscious intent, preventing any future claims of accidental omission." "How thoughtful of Daddy," I said, watching Patricia's face twitch at my use of the word. She'd spent years correcting me. "Your father prefers Vincent, dear." Madison squeezed my hand. I'd insisted my best friend come along today, knowing I'd need an anchor. Now I was grateful for her presence as memories flooded back, being excluded from family photos because they're for the Christmas cards, dear, and you don't quite match. Watching my brothers receive cars for their 16th birthdays while I got a bus pass. Having my college application to MIT dismissed as reaching above your station. If there are no other questions, the lawyer began gathering his papers. "Actually," Madison spoke up, her voice clear and professional, "I believe Ms. Armstrong would like a copy of the will for her records." Patricia's head snapped up. "That won't be necessary. Family matters should stay within the family." "I am family," I said quietly. $1 worth, apparently. Robert stood, buttoning his designer jacket. "Come on, Heidi. Don't make this awkward. Dad made his choices. You've always known where you stood." Yes, I had. 3rd place. The constant reminder that I was the product of Vincent's first marriage, the daughter he never wanted. The living reminder of the woman he'd lost. "I'll take that copy now," I told the lawyer, ignoring Robert's sigh of exasperation. Walking out of that house, my childhood home, felt different this time. The gravel crunched under my feet as Madison and I made our way to her car. Behind us, I could hear Robert and Greg already discussing investment plans. "Heidi!" Greg called out suddenly. I turned. He jogged over, looking conflicted. "Listen, I'm sorry about—" "Don't!" I cut him off. "Don't pretend this isn't exactly what you expected. What you wanted." His face hardened. "You're right. I don't know why I bothered." He turned back toward the house, where Patricia stood watching from the doorway like a sentinel. In Madison's car, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. She started the engine, but didn't move. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly. I pulled out the dollar bill, studying it under the afternoon sun. "I'm thinking about frame sizes." "Frame sizes? This dollar is going above my desk. Every morning when I wake up, I want to see what they think I'm worth." Madison's eyes widened slightly. "That's dark." "No," I said, folding the bill carefully. "That's motivation." That evening, I sat in my small apartment, the framed dollar now hanging prominently on my wall. My laptop glowed with a half-finished business plan, the one Robert had laughed at during our last family dinner 6 months ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. "I hope you understand this is for the best. The boys have real potential to grow the family legacy." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my browser and typed, "How to register a tech startup." The cursor blinked at me, like a heartbeat, like a countdown. My father had always said business was about timing and leverage. He'd taught that to my brothers, not to me. I just happened to be listening from the hallway. "Well, Daddy," I whispered to the framed dollar. Time to see if I was paying attention. I began to type, my fingers flying across the keyboard. The same idea they'd all laughed at. The same concept Robert had dismissed as cute. Above me, that dollar watched, a constant reminder that they thought they'd written the final chapter of my story. They had no idea they'd just written the first line. So what you're saying is, people would voluntarily put their promises online. Robert's voice dripped with condescension as he cut into his steak. And this would somehow make them more accountable? 6 months before my father's death, at what would be my last family dinner, I sat trying to explain my concept to deaf ears. It's more than that, I pressed on, ignoring Patricia's eye roll. Think about how many business deals fall apart because of broken promises. My platform would create public, time-stamped commitments, smart contracts, reputation scores, community verification. Greg snorted into his wine glass. Sounds like a glorified pinky promise app. Actually, my father spoke up, and for a moment my heart lifted. Robert, tell everyone about your real estate venture ideas. Now that's something worth discussing. I pushed my barely touched food around my plate, while Robert dominated the conversation. That night, I'd driven home in tears. Now, sitting across from Madison in my tiny kitchen, that memory fueled me. I've got 15,000 saved, I said, sliding my laptop toward her. It's everything from my graphic design side gigs and that coding bootcamp instructor position. Madison studied the business plan, her forehead creased. Heidi, this is good, really good, but 15,000 won't be enough, I know. I pulled up another spreadsheet. That's why I'm taking a second job. The coffee shop down the street needs a morning shift manager. You're already working 60 hours a week. And now I'll work 80. I tapped the framed dollar bill on my wall. They think I'm worth this. I'm going to show them what I'm really worth. Madison leaned back, running her hands through her hair. Okay, talk me through the technical architecture again. If we're building this from scratch. We? I stopped typing. Well, I'm not letting you do this alone. Besides, she grinned, I've got some savings too. And I hate my corporate job anyway. 3 months later, we were working out of my apartment. Empty coffee cups littered every surface, and our whiteboard was covered in user interface sketches. Madison had quit her job, and I was surviving on 4 hours of sleep between my various jobs and our coding sessions. The verification system is buggy again, Madison groaned, face illuminated by her screen at 2 a.m. Push through it, I muttered, downing my 5th coffee. The prototype demo's in 2 weeks. My phone buzzed. A news alert about Mitchell Armory Solutions, my brother's new venture. They'd secured their first major investor. The photo showed them in matching suits, Patricia beaming between them. Don't look at that stuff, Madison warned. I'm not, I lied, but kept reading. Robert's quote caught my eye. We're building a family legacy of innovation. I closed the article and opened our code repository. The verification system will be fixed by morning. It took us another 2 months to get the prototype working. We called it Accountability Plus, and our first beta testers were local small business owners I'd met through my various jobs. This is exactly what I needed, said Maria, who owned the coffee shop where I worked mornings. She'd used our platform to create public commitments with her suppliers. When they know their reputation score is on the line, suddenly everyone delivers on time. Word spread. Small businesses led to medium-sized ones. Madison and I moved operations to a tiny office we could barely afford. Every night I'd come home, look at that framed dollar, and keep working. Then came the email that changed everything. Holy shit, Madison breathed, reading over my shoulder. Is that really from... Yep. I couldn't stop staring at the sender, one of the largest tech accelerators in the country. They want to meet. The interview was set for next week. That night, I couldn't sleep. I found myself doing something I'd avoided for months, scrolling through my family's social media. Robert's latest post showed him at a charity gala. Greg had shared photos of their new office space. Patricia had posted about my successful sons. Each image was perfectly curated, screaming success and family unity. My phone rang. Greg's name flashing on the screen. I almost dropped it in surprise. We hadn't spoken since the will reading. Heidi. His voice was slightly slurred. I saw your thing online. The accountability app? I waited. Robert says it's stupid, he continued. Says it'll never work. But, he paused. I don't know. Maybe it's not so stupid. Thanks for the ringing endorsement, I said dryly. I should have stood up for you. That day, with the will, but you didn't. I cut him off. Good night, Greg. I hung up and looked at my reflection in the window, the framed dollar visible behind me. Tomorrow, I'd pitch to investors who'd never heard the name Armstrong, who'd judge my idea on its merits alone. For the first time, I smiled at that dollar. Watch me, I whispered to it. Just watch me. Mitchell Armory Solutions is proud to announce our expansion into 5 new markets. Robert's voice boomed from my laptop speaker. I watched the LinkedIn video of him standing at a podium, Greg flanking his right side, Patricia beaming from the front row. As a family business, he continued, we understand the importance of trust and legacy. Madison slammed my laptop shut. Stop torturing yourself. We have actual work to do. She was right. Our tiny office was buzzing with activity. The accelerator program had connected us with mentors, resources, and, most importantly, our first round of serious funding. We'd hired 3 developers and a marketing specialist. The new feature rollout is scheduled for next week, Madison said, pulling up our project timeline. And TechCrunch wants to interview you about the platform's impact on small business accountability. My phone buzzed. A text from Greg. Saw your recent press. Interesting. Can we talk? I ignored it, just like I'd ignored his last 3 messages. Instead, I opened my emails to find another message from our legal team about trademark registration. Did you see this? Our marketing lead, Julia, rushed in, waving her phone. Mitchell Armory Solutions just announced they're launching a revolutionary accountability tracking system for their real estate platform. My stomach dropped. Madison grabbed the phone, her face darkening as she read. Those stealing, she caught herself. They're copying us. They saw our success and they're trying to duplicate our features. I should have been angry, but instead, I felt an odd sense of calm. Let them try. Heidi, this is serious. They have more resources, bigger connections, and zero understanding of what makes our platform work. I pulled up our user metrics. We have 18,000 active users who trust us. We built this from the ground up, understanding every pain point. They're just chasing trends. My phone buzzed again. Greg, Robert's making a mistake. I tried to tell him. This time I responded, worried about something. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared several times before his reply came. Can we meet? Just us. I agreed to coffee the next day. Madison thought I was crazy, but something in his messages felt different. The cafe was neutral territory, far from both our offices. Greg looked tired, his usual polished appearance slightly frayed at the edges. Robert's out of control, he said after we ordered. The expansion was too fast. We're over-leveraged, and now he's pushing this accountability system without any real development plan. Why are you telling me this? He stared into his coffee. Because you were right. That dinner, when you pitched your idea, I knew it was good. I just didn't want to admit it. And now Robert's trying to copy something he laughed at, and our investors are asking questions we can't answer. He looked up. I'm sorry, Heidi, for everything. The will, the way we treated you. Stop. I held up my hand. This isn't about apologies. You're here because you're scared. Your family business is in trouble, isn't it? His silence was answer enough. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, my voice level. You're going to go back and tell Robert to drop the accountability feature. If he doesn't, our legal team will be very interested in the timing of his announcement relative to our patent applications. Greg's eyes widened. You have patents pending. I stood up, leaving my untouched coffee. Give Robert my regards. Back at the office, Madison was waiting with more news. You need to see this. She pulled up a financial news site. The headline made my heart skip. Mitchell Armory Solutions faces investor scrutiny over expansion claims. It's starting, I said softly. What's starting? The house of cards falling. I showed her my conversation with Greg. They built everything on image and inherited money. We built on actual value. Over the next few weeks, we watched as Mitchell Armory Solutions faced increasing pressure. Their accountability feature announcement was quietly removed from their website. Rumors of missed payments and project delays started circulating in industry circles. Then came the message that changed everything. An anonymous email containing a single image, a document that looked like my father's will, but with very different numbers on it. "Heidi," Madison whispered, looking at my screen. "Is that what I think it is?" A different version of the will. My hands were shaking. Dated 2 weeks before the one they read. But that would mean that someone forged the final version. I looked up at the framed dollar bill, still hanging on my office wall. And I think I know who. I forwarded the email to our lawyers, then sent one final text to Greg. "You might want to ask Patricia about Dad's original will, the one where I wasn't written out." His response came hours later. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, you'll see," I typed back. "After all, family matters should stay within the family, right?" The pieces were falling into place, and for the first time, that dollar bill on my wall didn't look like a symbol of shame. It looked like the first clue in a puzzle I was finally solving. "And that's how Accountability Plus helped us resolve the situation," the actress said on national television, her previous scandal now transformed into a redemption story. "The platform made everyone involved honor their commitments publicly. No more he said, she said." I watched from our new office's conference room as our user numbers exploded. Within hours of the interview, Dyer's Accountability Plus was trending. "We've hit 1 million downloads," Madison announced, bursting into the room. "The servers are barely keeping up." Our team of 3 had grown to 30, occupying an entire floor in a downtown high-rise. The framed dollar bill still hung on my wall, but now it was surrounded by press clippings and industry awards. "Have you seen this?" Julia rushed in with her tablet. The headline read, "Mitchell Armory Solutions faces class action lawsuit from investors." I had seen it. Just like I'd seen the photos of Robert leaving the courthouse last week, his perfect suit wrinkled, his face twisted in rage as reporters shouted questions about missing funds and falsified projections. My phone buzzed. Another text from Greg. "They're freezing our accounts. Robert's lost it. Please, can we talk?" Before I could respond, Madison grabbed my arm. "Heidi, look at this." She pointed to her screen, showing a local business news article. Patricia was quoted defending her son's company. "This is a temporary setback. The Armstrong family always prevails." "Always prevails," I repeated softly. Interesting choice of words. A notification popped up on my phone. Our stock price had jumped another 15% after the actress's interview. I hadn't told anyone, not even Madison, exactly how much I was worth now. The irony wasn't lost on me. That single dollar had multiplied beyond even my father's fortune. "Ms. Armstrong," our receptionist poked her head in. "There's someone here to see you. Says she's a notary named Elise." I felt my pulse quicken. "Send her in." The woman who entered looked nervous, clutching a manila envelope. "I saw you on the cover of Business Weekly," she said, without preamble. "You look just like your father." "You knew my father?" I notarized his will. She placed the envelope on my desk. His real will. My hands didn't shake this time as I opened it. The documents inside were identical to the ones I'd received anonymously, but these were originals, complete with official stamps and signatures. "Patricia came to me afterward," Elise continued. "Said there had been a mistake, that Mr. Armstrong wanted changes. She had documentation. It seemed legitimate at the time, but it wasn't." "No." Elise's voice cracked. "I've been carrying this guilt for years. When I saw you'd succeeded despite everything, I knew it was time." After she left, Madison read through the documents, her face growing darker with each page. "This proves it. Patricia forged the final will. You were supposed to get half of everything." "More than that," I said, pointing to a specific clause. "I was supposed to get controlling interest in the family company. Dad knew Robert couldn't handle it." My phone buzzed again. "Greg, Robert's talking about leaving the country. Patricia's missing. Please help." This time, I replied, "My office. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Bring every document you have." That night, I stayed late, staring at the city lights through my office window. My laptop showed Mitchell Armory Solutions, stock in freefall, while Accountability Plus continued its meteoric rise. "Your father would be proud," a voice said behind me. I turned to find Maria, my former coffee shop boss, now our head of small business relations. Would he? I wondered aloud. You built something real, she said. Not just successful, it's meaningful. That's worth more than any inheritance. After she left, I took down the framed dollar bill for the first time in 3 years. Behind it was a small photo I'd hidden there. The last picture taken of my father and me together at my college graduation. He wasn't smiling, but there was something in his eyes I'd never noticed before. Regret, maybe? Or recognition. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. You think you've won? Money isn't everything, dear. Patricia's tone came through even in text form. I typed back a single response. No, it isn't. Truth is. Then I forwarded Elisa's documents to our lawyers with a simple instruction. Begin. The dollar bill caught the evening light as I placed it back on the wall. Tomorrow, Greg would arrive desperate for help. Robert would probably be on a plane by then. And Patricia, well, karma has a way of catching up. You were right about one thing, Dad, I said to the photo. Business is about timing and leverage. I smiled at the dollar bill. And I learned from the best. Greg arrived at my office, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His designer suit was rumpled, his eyes bloodshot. He dropped a thick folder on my desk without a word. Everything's here, he said hoarsely. Bank statements, transfer records, emails, everything Patricia didn't want us to see. I opened the folder while Madison watched from the corner, her arms crossed. The first document was a letter from my father's original attorney, Deborah, dated 1 month before his death. She fired Dad's lawyer, I said, scanning the letter. After 20 years, Patricia suddenly decided the firm wasn't meeting the family's needs. I didn't know. Greg slumped in his chair. Robert handled all the legal stuff. Patricia said it was better that way. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd been saving. Miss Ferguson, this is Heidi Armstrong. I believe we need to talk about my father's last month alive. 2 hours later, Deborah Ferguson sat in my conference room. Her elegant grey hair and a sharp suit a stark contrast to Greg's dishevelled appearance. Your father knew he was dying, she said, her voice steady but sad. He wanted to make things right with you, Heidi. The new will was his attempt at redemption. But Patricia intervened. Madison interjected. She came to my office, furious. Deborah's hands tightened around her coffee cup. Said Vincent wasn't thinking clearly, that the medication was affecting his judgment. When I refused to change the will, I was dismissed the next day. I spread out the documents from Greg's folder alongside Elisa's notarized will. We need to establish a timeline. Every meeting, every document change, every signature. My phone buzzed. A text from Kai, the private investigator I'd hired. Found something. Meeting in an hour. Keep going, I told the others. I have another lead to follow. I met Kai at a quiet cafe downtown. He looked exactly like his profile picture. Mid-20s, sharp eyes, and the kind of face you'd forget immediately if you weren't paying attention. Patricia's been busy, he said, sliding a USB drive across the table. She's been moving money around for years. Small amounts, nothing suspicious on its own. But when you add it up, I plugged the drive into my laptop. The spreadsheet made my breath catch. She's been embezzling since before Dad died. And there's more. Kai leaned forward. 3 days before your father's death, she visited a private storage facility, paid cash for a unit under a different name. What was in it? Don't know yet, but the unit was emptied 2 days after the will reading. Back at the office, I found Greg and Deborah still piecing together the puzzle. Madison had created a timeline on the conference room wall, sticky notes and string connecting events like a detective's murder board. Look at this. Madison pointed to a cluster of notes. Patricia replaced the notary, the lawyer, and even the witnesses, all within 2 weeks. She isolated your father completely, because he was trying to fix things, Greg said quietly. God, Heidi, I'm so sorry. We were all so blind. Not blind, I corrected. Willing. You saw what you wanted to see. My phone rang. Kai again. You need to see this, he said, without preamble. Security footage from the storage facility. You won't believe what she took out of there. The video was grainy, but clear enough. Patricia, wheeling a large document box to her car. The timestamp, 2 days after my father's death. The original will, I breathed. She didn't destroy it. She hid it. Along with every other document your father might have signed in his last months, Kai confirmed. But here's the thing. She kept them. People like her always keep evidence, thinking they might need it someday. I looked at the framed dollar on my wall, then at Greg's haunted face, and finally at the timeline Madison had created. All the pieces were there, waiting to be connected. Madison, I said, call our lawyers. Greg, I need every password, every account number you have for the family business. Deborah, we're going to need affidavits from everyone involved in Dad's last months. What are you going to do? Greg asked. I smiled, thinking of Patricia's text from the night before. I'm going to show her that money isn't everything. Truth is, my phone buzzed one last time. Another text from Patricia. Whatever you think you know, you can't prove it. Some things should stay buried, dear. I took a photo of our evidence wall and sent it to her with a simple message. Nothing stays buried forever. See you in court, Mother. The response was immediate. You wouldn't dare. I looked at the dollar bill again, remembering how it felt when she watched me receive it at the will reading. Watch me, I whispered, then turned to my assembled team. Let's begin. The security guard's voice crackled over the intercom. Ms. Armstrong, Robert is here. He's insisting on seeing you. I glanced at Madison, who shook her head. Don't do it. Let the lawyers handle everything. No, I said, pressing the intercom. Send him up, but call building security to stand by. Robert burst through my office doors minutes later, his usual polished appearance completely undone. His tie was loose, hair dishevelled, and his eyes had the wild look of someone who hadn't slept in days. You think you're so clever, he snarled, turning Greg against me, digging up ancient history? I remained seated, keeping my voice calm. It's not ancient if it's still affecting the present. We need money, he said, switching tactics suddenly. The investors, they're circling like vultures. If you help us, we can forget all this unpleasantness. Unpleasantness? I stood slowly. Is that what you call stealing my inheritance? Watching Patricia forge documents while you counted your millions? You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I walked to my wall and took down the framed dollar bill. For 3 years I looked at this every day. It reminded me of what you all thought I was worth. We can make this right, he pleaded, his desperation showing through. Name your price. I opened the frame and pulled out the original will that had been hidden behind the dollar. Funny thing about prices, I said, sliding the document across my desk. They tend to reflect true value. Robert's face went pale as he read. This can't be real. Oh, but it is. Notarized, witnessed, and very much legal. Dad's last real will before Patricia got to him. You're lying. Actually, Greg's voice came from the doorway. She's not. He walked in, carrying a thick folder. I've signed an affidavit confirming everything, Robert. It's over. Robert lunged at Greg, but security was faster. They had him restrained before he could reach his brother. You traitor, Robert shouted. After everything we built. We didn't build anything, Greg said quietly. We just spent Dad's money while Heidi actually created something valuable. I pressed the intercom again. Please escort Robert out and make sure our lawyers get the security footage of this visit. After Robert was gone, Greg sank into a chair. He's been moving money offshore. Patricia too, probably. I know, I said. Kai tracked the transfers. What do you want from me? Greg asked. Why show me all this evidence first? I sat on the edge of my desk. Because you get one chance, Greg. One chance to make this right. Sign the confession our lawyers prepared, testify against Patricia, and I'll make sure you're protected from the worst of the fallout. And Robert? Robert made his choice. Multiple choices, actually. All of them wrong. Greg stared at the papers for a long moment. Will you ever forgive us? This isn't about forgiveness, I said. It's about justice. Dad tried to make things right before he died. Patricia stole that from all of us. Madison entered with a legal document. The confession's ready. All it needs is your signature, Greg. His hand shook as he took the pen. Patricia will never forgive me. Patricia's going to be too busy dealing with fraud charges to worry about forgiveness, I said. After Greg signed and left, Madison turned to me. "Are you sure about protecting him? He's not innocent in all this." "No, but he chose truth in the end. That's worth something." I picked up the dollar bill from my desk. Besides, I didn't build Accountability Plus just to preach accountability. I built it to practice it. My phone buzzed. A text from Kai. "Patricia's trying to leave the country. Want me to alert the authorities?" "Not yet," I replied. "Let her get to the airport first. More witnesses that way?" Madison raised an eyebrow. "You're enjoying this a little, aren't you?" 3 years, Madison. 3 years of looking at this dollar, building something from nothing, watching them laugh at my ideas while they squandered everything. I smiled. "So yes, I'm enjoying seeing justice finally catch up. Speaking of justice," she nodded toward my computer, "the press release is ready. 1 click and everyone knows about the forged will, the fraud, everything." I looked at the dollar bill one last time before placing it back in its frame. But this time, I put the original will behind it, visible through the glass, a reminder that truth always finds its way to the light. "Send it," I said. Madison pressed enter, and within seconds, my phone started buzzing with notifications. The truth was out, and there was no hiding from it anymore. "Now what?" Madison asked. I smiled, thinking of Patricia's face when she'd be stopped at the airport. "Now, we watch karma do its work." The courtroom fell silent as Patricia was led in, her designer outfit replaced by a plain black suit, her perfectly manicured nails now bare. She didn't look at me, but I felt her hatred radiating across the room. "All rise," the bailiff called. The evidence had been overwhelming. Elisa's testimony about the forged will, Deborah's account of being fired, Greg's confession about the systematic fraud. But it was the contents of Patricia's storage unit that sealed her fate. Every document she'd thought might be useful for leverage someday had become evidence against her. "Your Honor," the prosecutor began, "the state has proven beyond doubt that the defendant orchestrated an elaborate scheme of fraud, forgery, and embezzlement spanning several years." I watched Patricia's shoulders stiffen as the prosecutor detailed each charge. The security footage of her removing documents from the storage unit played on the courtroom screens. Bank records showed the systematic draining of company accounts. Email trails revealed her careful manipulation of my father's final months. "Ms. Armstrong," the judge turned to me, "you have a victim impact statement?" I stood, unfolding a single piece of paper. 3 years ago, I was given a dollar bill as my entire inheritance. It was meant to shame me, to remind me of my place in the family hierarchy. I paused, looking directly at Patricia for the first time. "But that dollar taught me something valuable. True worth isn't inherited, it's earned." Patricia's lawyer jumped up. "Objection, Your Honor. This is inflammatory." "Overruled," the judge said. "Continue, Ms. Armstrong. My father tried to make things right before he died. Patricia stole that chance from him, from me, and ultimately from her own sons. The money she stole can be repaid. The trust she destroyed cannot." As I sat down, Madison squeezed my hand. Greg, sitting on the prosecution's side, wiped his eyes. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "We have, Your Honor." The forewoman stood, and I held my breath. "On the count of criminal fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of forgery, guilty. On the count of embezzlement, guilty." Patricia's composure finally cracked. Her face contorted as the judge began announcing her sentence. "Patricia Armstrong, this court sentences you to 8 years in federal prison, with restitution to be paid in the amount of—" The numbers blurred as I watched my stepmother's carefully constructed world crumble. Robert, who'd fled to the Cayman Islands, was now the subject of an international warrant. The family empire she'd schemed to control had disintegrated. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "Ms. Armstrong, how does it feel to reclaim your inheritance? Will you take control of Mitchell Armory Solutions?" "Any comment on Robert's flight from justice?" I held up my hand. "The only statement I'm making is this. Accountability isn't just a platform I built. It's a principle I live by. Justice was served today, not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been betrayed by those they should have been able to trust." Later that evening, I sat in my office, the city lights twinkling below. The framed dollar still hung on my wall. but now it seemed more like a trophy than a reminder of shame. Greg knocked softly before entering. "The lawyers finished the paperwork. The company assets that are left, they're yours now." "Ours," I corrected. "You testified. You chose truth. That counts for something." He shook his head. "I don't deserve—" "It's not about deserving," I said. "It's about doing better. Besides, I have plans for what's left of the family business." "What kind of plans?" I pulled up a presentation on my screen. "We're converting it into a foundation, supporting tech startups founded by people who've been overlooked, underestimated, written off." "Like you were," he said quietly. "Exactly like I was." My phone buzzed. A message from the prison. Patricia wanted to see me. One last attempt at manipulation, probably. "Are you going to go?" Greg asked, seeing the message. "No," I said, deleting it. "Some chapters need to stay closed." Madison burst in, waving her tablet. "You need to see this. Robert's been spotted in Singapore. Interpol's closing in." I smiled, thinking of my father's words about timing and leverage. Robert would learn about accountability the hard way. "What now?" Greg asked. I looked at the dollar bill, then at the sprawling city beyond my window. "Now we build something new, something honest." As they left my office, I took down the frame one last time. Behind the dollar and the will was still that old photo of my father and me. I touched his face gently. "I did it, Dad," I whispered. "I built something real, something true." The city lights seemed brighter somehow, like they were celebrating with me. Justice had been served, but this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. A chance to turn that dollar bill from a symbol of shame into a beacon of possibility for others who needed their own shot at redemption. The autumn wind rustled through the cemetery as I placed fresh flowers on my father's grave. The marble headstone gleamed in the morning light, still new enough to shine. "You should have told me yourself," I said softly, placing the framed dollar bill against the stone. "But I understand why you couldn't." Behind me, Madison waited respectfully by the car. We had a board meeting in an hour, the first official gathering of the Armstrong Innovation Foundation. The irony wasn't lost on me that I'd be sitting in my father's old chair. My phone buzzed, a text from Greg. Robert took the plea deal, coming home to face charges. I smiled slightly. Even paradise got uncomfortable when your accounts were frozen, and Interpol knew your favourite coffee shops. Another message followed. "Patricia's asking for another meeting." "Still no," I typed back. The Foundation's first round of grant recipients would be announced today. 10 brilliant entrepreneurs who'd been overlooked, underestimated, or pushed aside. Each would receive seed funding and mentorship, along with access to our network of investors. "Ms. Armstrong?" A woman's voice broke through my thoughts. I turned to see an elderly lady approaching slowly. "I'm Sarah," she said. "I was your father's secretary for 20 years, before Patricia let me go." "I remember you," I said. "You used to sneak me candy when I visited Dad's office." She smiled. "Vincent wasn't good at showing it, but he talked about you constantly. Your grades, your ideas. He kept every article you wrote for the school paper." My throat tightened. "He never said—" "No, he wouldn't have. Patricia made sure of that." Sarah reached into her bag. "But he left this with me, the day before everything changed. Said if anything happened to him, I should wait until you found your way." She handed me an envelope, yellowed with age. My father's handwriting sprawled across the front. "For Heidi, when she proves me right." Inside was a single sheet of paper, dated just before his death. "Heidi, I was a coward. I let others dictate how I showed love, and you suffered for it. But I watched you, learned from you. You see possibilities where others see problems. You build while others destroy. The will I sign today gives you control, not because you're my daughter, but because you've earned it. Patricia knows this. She's probably already planning to change things. I'm too weak to stop her now. But you're stronger than I ever was. That dollar they'll give you? Frame it. Let it fuel you. Then show them what real value looks like. I'm proud of you, even if I never said it enough. Dad." My hands shook as I folded the letter. "Thank you," I whispered to Sarah. "He knew you'd find your way," she said. "We all did." Back at the office, Madison was reviewing the grant announcements when I walked in. "Everything okay?" she asked, noting my red eyes. "Better than okay." I placed the framed dollar bill back on my wall, but this time I added my father's letter next to it. "We're right where we're supposed to be." The boardroom filled quickly. Investors, advisors, and Greg, looking nervous but determined in his new role as Foundation Director. "The first order of business," I began, "is to announce our inaugural grant recipients, 10 innovators who, like me, were told their ideas weren't worth more than $1. As I read each name, their stories resonated with my own. The immigrant with a revolutionary recycling solution, the single mother with a healthcare app, the veteran with a disability assistance platform. This foundation isn't about charity, I concluded. It's about recognizing value others miss. It's about accountability, to ourselves, to our communities, and to the truth. After the meeting, Greg lingered. "Robert's court date is next week. He's asking if you'll speak on his behalf." "No," I said, "but I won't speak against him either. Some debts can't be paid with words." My phone lit up with notifications as the grant announcements went public. Among them was a message from an unknown number. "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. E." I smiled, remembering my own journey from that devastating will reading to today. Opening my laptop, I began typing. What $1 bought me? A story of truth, justice, and real value. Madison peered over my shoulder. Going public with the whole story? People need to know that success isn't just about money or power. Sometimes it's about standing firm when everyone expects you to break. I looked at my father's letter, then at the dollar bill that had started everything. The sun streamed through my office window, catching the frame's glass and creating a prism of colours across my desk. "Besides," I added, "every dollar has a story. This one's mine." Greg appeared in the doorway. "The first grant recipients are here. Ready to meet them?" I stood, straightening my jacket. "Ready to show them what their dollar can buy."